All right, guys. So in this lesson, we're going to be working on building out this form that's going to be creating new classifieds on our classified site using Divi machine. Now, the Divi form builder gives you a bunch of different options. We're going to be creating a multi-step form for this particular example, but you can build any type of form. We will be using a regular form for the edit because we don't want the user to have to go through all the steps when they just want to go edit certain information. We also kind of want to limit them on the certain things that they can edit over there. So what we need to do is we're going to be creating a page. We're going to be adding our form module to this. And then we're going to be building out step by step each phase that we're going to go through. First step is going to be what category of post are we creating? Then it's going to be the type of item and the status of that item. We're then at 3 going to be looking at, okay, so what are all the details on the item? A description, some photos, and so forth. And then lastly, we want to capture information on the person that needs to be contacted if somebody wants to purchase something, if something's been found, or whatever the case might be. So I'm going to go hop on the back end of my Divi site as always, and we're going to go to Pages and click on Add New. We'll enable the Divi builder, and we will build from scratch. Okay, so now once in here, we're just going to add a single column row. We're going to type in form to bring up the Divi form builder, and that is going to open up all the settings. And now it's going to want some fields from us. Now, if you guys remember back to when we were planning our custom post type, we did think about it and the order of how would we submit a new post. And this is one of the reasons we do it that way, that if you're creating a new custom post, in this case, a classified, what is the thought process or the best way to go through building that out? So we are going to start with the first step, which is selecting the category of the post. Okay, so let's go ahead and first give our form a name, and we'll say create new classified. And don't worry about the styling. We will get to all of that at the end once we have all of our fields in there and we have our form working the way we want it to. Now, the first field we're going to be putting in is going to be obviously the category field or the type of post field. But let's first get down here to what type of form are we creating? We are creating a new classified form. So create classifieds form. So you need to select that. That is very important. And then you can control things like what do you want the submit button to say? That is all up to how you want to run your site. And yeah, so we're going to also hide the form until it is loaded so that you don't get like parts of the form loading in. And you can use a preloader animation if you choose to do so. We're not going to be doing that. And then also you can say scroll to form after submission, but we're going to be hiding our form after submission. So we really don't need that to be open. I'll just turn it off for now. And now you can, of course, control what the post status will be once a form has been submitted. So there's a lot of options in here. And depending on how you're going to be administrating the site, you might say, okay, well, publish directly. I'm going to put that on for now, but sometimes it might be a good idea to moderate the type of submissions you're getting. It depends on the size of the site that you intend on creating and how big the audience is, of course. So that is what we will do here. And that's going to be it on that tab for now. Moving down to the multi-step options, we are certainly going to be enabling that as that is what we will be using in this. And you have all different types of transitions that you can select here. We're going to be sliding horizontally to create that effect of it sliding over as we go through each step. And then you've got some options here as far as the progress bar goes. As far as I'm going to want little bigger progress bars or little dots that it creates there. But we're not going to be adding the step title. I mean, you can do that certainly, and you'll see them show up as we go. But maybe we'll come back later and activate that. It's just to kind of show you what that looks like. And then you can activate enter to go to the next step. That is sometimes a very popular feature in form builders. You can definitely utilize that if you so choose. Now, as far as email notification goes, you can send an email to the administrator, of course. So that is something you can do. You can also send a notification to the person that's submitting the form. So when we've got this switched on here. So you can say, send it to the email address. You can even send it to an ACF field. So for example, if you go here to the ACF field we've got here, we're obviously collecting the contact email. So you can send them an email to, give them the notification that their submission went through. but maybe this is more for administration, right? So I'm just going to switch this off. And if we come here to email confirmation, here is where you would typically be sending the confirmation to the user that, hey, your form has been submitted. And then you can use any type of email template because you can put like a raw HTML template in here to make it look exactly branded the way you want to. We're not going to be covering that in this course, but I wanted to make you aware of that. And there is thorough documentation on this stuff on help.diviengine.com that'll help you get through that. So now the next thing I want to bring to your attention here is the notices. This is where we are going to create a custom successfully submitted notice, and then we'll have some buttons on there that says, take me to my account, or maybe create a new post or whatever it might be. But we'll deal with that when we get to the end of this section. And then the redirects and the extra, we covered a lot of this stuff in the overview, so I'm not going to get into that stuff because we're not going to be working with that stuff. Now it's time to start adding some fields. And the first field that we need to add is a step field because we're going to have these 4 steps on this form to create a new post. We just talked about those. So the first one is just going to be called step 1 classified category. So that is going to be our field title. We can also just call it classified category. And then for the admin title, we can call it that, but we can play with that later. It's not that important, but the field ID is fairly important. So we will just call this step_1 because otherwise it'll auto-generate one. And if you guys recall when we were dealing with the conditional logic, that kind of throws things a little funky at you when you're dealing with that. And of course, we're going to be adding some conditional logic to when we're trying to submit something that's for sale, because you won't have a price on, let's say, a free item or something that's lost. We don't want to ask the user for that information. So we'll just roll with that. Now, as far as the type of field, we are just going to be selecting the form step field here. And that will now automatically start adding a little bit more information on the page. You can also control what your previous button text says or your next button text says, or you can also just change the icon if you wanted to. I don't think a checkmark's appropriate for this. So maybe what we'll do is we'll just use this guy for the progress bar step icon. We're not going to mess with these icons or anything like that right now. And then, of course, you can make a field a requirement. We're not going to be doing that with the step itself, but I wanted to just show that to you. If I think about it, let's maybe just change the icon because it's the icon that's going to be showing up at the top for each step. So let's go and see if we can find anything for category. No. So let's just go and find something that looks like a document because that's kind of like what we're dealing with here. So I think that's good. Alrighty, so going down further, we'll take a look at the layout options and nothing we really need to be changing here. You can add a description to this step if you wanted to. We're not going to do that. And you can do placeholder text. It doesn't really make sense on this type of field. And then we're also not going to be dealing with any type of mapping options or conditional logic or anything like that. We're going to keep it pretty vanilla. So that is it for step 1. And you're going to be doing something similar for all of your step fields. We can actually even go ahead and we can copy these to have 4 of them. And you can kind of see how things update up here. So let's just quickly categorize each step. We'll say step 2 is going to be item type, right? And we'll just copy that, paste it in there, and then we'll just make this step 2. And it's going to be a form step, and really nothing else changes, but maybe we can have your item. Oh, that's actually a much better way for the first icon. So I'm going to change the first icon to be this. I think that's much better. But we need to find something appropriate here for the item type. And you know what I think? I think we're going to use this puzzle piece for the item type. Cool. Layout options, everything else is going to stay the same. We're not adding anything on here. We don't need to map anything, so we'll just do that. And then we'll go to step 3, which of course is going to be the item information, right? So we're going to type in item information. We'll copy that text, we'll paste it in. And then of course, this is going to be step 3. Still a form step. And now I think it's going to make sense to use that clipboard icon. So we'll keep that. And let's go fix the icon on the first step really quickly. And I found that like so. So it is that little thing that branches out. And then the last step is going to be, of course, the contact person. Okay. And we'll copy all of that and paste that right there. Step 4. And our final step, of course. So now we'll just go and find the person icon. We'll use this one that's a little bigger. Maybe the round one. I like that better. Cool. Awesome. So now we've got all of our steps in here, and we can start adding the fields that apply to each step. Our first field, as I mentioned, is going to be the category. So I'm going to add a field again, and then I'll say, what type of classified post, or what type of classified are you submitting? There we go. And then for the admin title, we can just say classified underscore category. Oh, that's actually what I intend to use for my field ID. And then what we'll just do here is say classified category, just like a pretty name for it so we know what it's going to be. And I'm going to add a 1-1 just to show that this is part of step 1 and it's the first field in step 1. So it's a little easier to know where this is coming from. Okay, so the type of field that we're going to be using here is going to be a radio button, because we're going to be using, if we look at our completed form here, the image radio button. So we're going to be converting that into an image. So we will just continue here and we'll just say we're going to auto detect the different options, the different radio options from the mapped field. So we're going to have to make sure that we are mapping this accurately. Now we're going to be adding images to the options. That's correct. And this is one that we do want to make required. And as you can see, you can put a custom required message, and maybe we'll say you have to select a category for our message. So you can do anything you want there. Okay, so moving on, we get to the layout options. And here in the layout options, we're going to put the field label at the top. And I know that we can't see anything right now, but we will. I'm going to save the form in a little bit, and then we'll reload this page to take a look. And then we're going to say, okay, well, we want these radio options to be in a grid or in one line. That is absolutely what we want. And we want to say that we want to show them in one line. We don't need any type of placeholder text, but we will add a description here that's going to go above. And we will just say, choose your listing category, right? So that is easy and self-explanatory. Now for mapping options, we'll just come down here and we're going to say, okay, well, this is going to be the classified taxonomy, right? So it's a taxonomy field, and then we're going to select classified category. Perfect. So that is, it really couldn't be any easier. It really does make it easy for you adding these things in there. Now, we're not going to be dealing with any conditional logic at this step, but we do want to utilize the radio checkbox image options. Now, we need to add some images here, and it'll add them in a sequential order. So we're going to click on plus here. Now, I have some icons already selected here, so I'm just going to go select them all and put them in here. And I am going to go and put it on the bottom, and that's fine. So I'm going to save this, and I'll save it one more time. And then I want to save or publish this form. Okay, great. So that's published. So let's exit the Visual Builder really quickly. And now immediately off the bat, we see that our data is not in here, but I wanted to kind of demonstrate something to you guys. And I noticed another thing also when working with the Visual Builder is that it has an ugly URL. So the slug is pretty ugly because we did not put a page title on there. So let's go and enable the Visual Builder again and fix those two issues so that I can show you how simple that is, but also how important certain steps are. So the first thing, we need to drag the field right into the correct step. And you see how that shows up almost immediately when we're going through. So that is the first thing I wanted to express to you. So any fields that are underneath that step and between another one, that's how you know where they need to go. And if they're not there, you're not going to see them on the page. So that's the first thing. And the second thing we're going to do is I'll save that and open up the page options and just say new classified. And that's it. All you really need to say, you can put form or whatever, but remember this stuff gets added to the URL. So just have it pretty, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to save that. Then we can save again and then just look at the front end. And great. But we can see also now that our images here are not correct, right? So let's show you how you fix the order of the images so that they're showing up perfectly. Okay, so let's edit our form again, and we'll go on the radio button field. We'll open up the image options, and now we can see that the first option was for sale. So you just drag the image over, and then I'm not sure what the second one was, to be honest. Let's go and exit it again, but I also just want to make sure that I put one option in here that is on the page settings, Divi machine or Divi engine settings, and then you just select classifieds as the post type that we're working with. But let me just save that really quick. Exit. Okay, so lost and found is last. So the rest of this is looking good. So let's enable the visual builder again. And I know that the spacing here doesn't look great. We'll fix that in a little bit, but it's good enough for the moment. So let's get back to editing the form. And now we need to start adding some other fields that pertain to the other elements on the page, right?